It's Joe here from Joe's Country Junction, and I am here, well, looks like the dogs are doing too much. This is my new little foster puppy. He doesn't even have a name yet. He's a little beagle dog, and I'm not here to share about my beagle dogs though. I'm here to share about my cross stitch, but he wanted a little hold, so I decided to just, you know, pet him for a second while I was waiting for everything to pop up and get ready. So I'll put him down and then we'll be right back to cross stitch. He's really cuddly and he's getting along really good here. I'm super excited for him to be here. I have a few things to share with you today. I've been busy cross stitching. It's been a while since I did a Flosstube, so I thought I would do one. I don't necessarily coordinate my blog with my Flosstube videos. So they're off. I do an update on what I've been cross stitching on every Friday on my blog, Joe's Country Junction, but I only do a Flosstube, you know, every 3 weeks, every month or so, something like that. So I'm here to do a Flosstube. I'm kind of wondering how my light's going to be because I've got some light out this window and you can see some light off back there from my living room, but we're just going to make it go because I have company coming and I've got to keep moving along and get some things done before the company arrives. I have a grandkid weekend happening. It seems like all of the kids I think are coming home and all the grandkids will be home. Maybe not to the twins Eli and Emmett. I don't know if they're going to end up coming home or not. Kelly works weekends, so we're coordinating and working to get Georgia here because she's old enough to kind of do her own thing. She's soon to be 4, and so she can hang with the big kids, but the twins are only going to be 2, and they take a lot of work yet, so we didn't make provisions for them to be here yet. We'll see. We might end up with them here anyway. But anyway, we're not here to talk about all of that. We're here to talk about cross stitch. So let's get at it. First, I thought I'd show you a couple things I picked up that I plan on using for finishing. This is an old box that I got at a kind of a vintage thrift kind of store, and it looks like this inside, and this is the outside. I just thought it might look cool with like either a punch needle or a cross stitch piece on top of it. I just kind of liked it. I like the color. It's kind of a browny color. I don't know if the camera's picking that up right, but I thought it'd be a fun piece. And here's something else I picked up. This is an old hamburger press. I don't know, it's got this goofy person on there. It was on clearance at the thrift store for only $1. It opens up like this, and I didn't know if I'd just put like a piece of velvet or something in the inside and then mount a cross stitch piece on the top. I don't know, we'll see. I might even end up like taking it apart here and only having this and mount one cross stitch piece here and like this and mount a different cross stitch piece here. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it, but I thought for $1 I don't want to be home and go, darn, I wish I had that. So that was my other plan. I went to a vintage sale and I also bought this. This is like a bowl of, it's all old linen or all old laces, and they're wrapped up on spools like this. These are, or clothespins like this. So these are all old laces. I thought I would probably use the laces for cross stitch finishes, but in the meantime, I was pretty excited that I could just keep them in a bowl like this because I thought that would be kind of fun. Yeah, so there's that. I forgot something. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Izzy, it's my dog. She's got to go down. So I had a couple finishes that I haven't shown you, so I thought that I would show them to you now. This is Rudolph and Friends, and that is by Brenda Gervais with My Needle and Thread. I cut this frame down. It was a big frame. It was probably like an 8 by 10, and I cut it down to this size. It maybe was even bigger, maybe 11 by 14. And I cut it down to this size. I do my own work to make the frames by using a chop saw, kind of like the Contented Needleworker Kim talks about, and Olivia at Plunkin Hollow Quilt talks about. And so I got brave, and I've been finishing some of the, making frames and finishing them on my own. So that one was, I used Called for Colors. I didn't put the candy cane in the cardinal's mouth, and I didn't make the reindeer's nose be red. because I want to keep it out all winter. Where we live, Izzy, where we live, they're starting to wrestle. Where we live, there's a lot of deer. People go deer hunting. We see deer regularly out in the field. And so I just wanted it to look like a deer and a snowman so I could keep it out all winter. And so that's what I'm working on doing. And that is from Brenda Gervais with Thy Needle and Thread, Rudolph and Friends. It's a mystery linen what I stitched that on, but it's 40 count. That's about all I know about it. This is another little piece I stitched. Oh, glare is going to be an issue. This is a little frame that I bought at an auction. I don't know. I think there was probably 10 frames in it, and I paid like $7 for the lot of frames. I just love the little frame. I don't know if you can see the little details of the frame. It's really cute. Anyway, this is a Not Forgotten Farm pattern. I did not trim this one down. It was just this size. So this pattern was a little bit different. It had some, doodads up here, kind of like an ivy. And I took that off. And then it was a little bit more prim. And some of these words were blue in here. And I wasn't a fan of that. So I made red's my favorite color, so I used a more red color to make the word happy. And then the saying says very little is needed to make a happy life. Well, for me to make a happy life, it's probably got to have a dog in it. So I put a little dog over here. I used Brenda Key's sampler book and just picked a dog out of there. And then to balance it off, I took and put some red or some black up here because the dog is black. And then I made a little red collar on the dog. So I did that. Hey. So while I was grabbing those two new finishes, I grabbed a couple old finishes because I'm going to be packing these away pretty soon. This is from Seasons of the Heart, also Brenda Gervais, also with a needle and thread. I did this on everything called for 40 count, and I used some trim from Purple Mountain Paper Crafts. Is that what it is? Purple Paper Mountain Crafts on Etsy. She's got some nice trims, and I stuff with usually lizard litter and a little bit of polyfill in the corners. Polyfill usually goes in the corners, and the rest is lizard litter. I kind of like that amount of weight. And then I also put polyfill right at the closing so that it keeps the lizard litter in place. And when I put my trim on, I use invisible thread. And I use invisible thread to sew that on. I don't glue. So that is Seasons of the Heart with a needle and thread. This one is in a book that has a similar pattern for all of the seasons. And you'll see in my whips, I have one of my whips is the spring version. Another little one that I have that will be packing away soon is Merry Winter. I think I modified this a little bit. I don't remember, but it's from Country Rustic Primitives, I think, on Etsy. I think that's where I have that one from. So, yeah. And I just put I had some velvet stuff that I bought at the thrift store, and I had the 2022 bead or charm that I put on there. And so just simple finish, nothing fancy at all, but I kind of like it that way for prim things. I don't often put trim on stuff because I don't want it to look dated. Sometimes if you have trim on, or if you do something particular one way or the other, it makes it look like 10 years from now, it'll look dated like, oh yeah, look, they made that in 2023. And so I don't want that. So I usually don't put a lot of trim on just to avoid that. Let me see. So that was my previous finishes, and that was my current finishes. And so now here's something I got in the mail. Can you believe someone sent this to me? Yeah. Donna sent this to me. She's a blog reader of mine. And immediately when it came in the mail, I called my sister, because my sister is the genealogy person of the family. And I said, do we have somebody that was on the Mayflower in our family tree? And she says, well, I've kind of looked, but I don't know yet. And I'm like, well, why don't you find out? Because I got this piece and I want to stitch it if we have somebody that was on the Mayflower. and just so that I can, you know, have something from my relative that was on the Mayflower. And so my sister doesn't know yet, so she was going to do some looking. So in the meantime, I had a blog reader of mine contact me, and she goes, I have someone, a relative that was on the Mayflower. Can I borrow that chart from you? Well, I ended up letting her borrow it. So hopefully I'll get it back someday. And hopefully my sister will let me know if we do indeed have someone from the Mayflower. Because this is the Coming to America from Brenda Gervais that came out on the anniversary of the landing of the Mayflower. So also included in the box were some of the other goodies. And then this was in there. Is that right? Yep, that's right. And so I did keep this, and I plan to stitch this yet this fall. I was super excited about this because I really wanted this chart. Originally, I was going to I'm not going to buy the kit Coming to America when it originally came out. I had just started cross stitching then and didn't know what I kind of liked and what I didn't like. And but this one I do like, I know for sure, and I'm going to stitch that one. But that's only available with the kit. The blog reader also sent a couple other things, and this is one thing that I might stitch down the road someday. This is a Little House Needleworks Sit and Stitch. And the verse on it says, by the ocean, on the beach, under the stars, I cannot reach. In a car and on a plane, also on a railway train. I can stitch most anywhere, but I really love my easy chair. I thought that was kind of cute. I don't know if I would necessarily keep that saying, but I sure do love the design of this on the outside. So I don't know. I'm going to keep this one in my stash and see how I end up using it in my stash, because I'm just not sure yet. And I don't have to be, so that's awesome too. I have my whips next that I'm going to show you. I just have them stacked up here. I don't have them in any particular order, and so I'm just going to go through them as I get to them. And I tried to open the bags so that I didn't have too much zipper noise. Now I got to try to remember not to zip them shut so I don't have too much zipper noise. I'm really bad at things like that. So here I go. This is... I'm not a fancy project bag girl. I love charts. I absolutely love charts, and I have excessively too many charts. I know I have too many charts, and that's totally okay because I really like charts. And I like to take them to bed. I like to look at the colors that the designer used. I like to do a lot of things, you know, like read the stitch count, figure out if I stitch this on 36 count, would it fit in an 11x7 frame? I just sit and study the pattern when I go to bed at night. And so even if I never stitch anything, I still get a lot of joy and pleasure out of having the pattern. I know that sounds weird. And I might do it one time and then 6 weeks later, pick it up and do the same thing all over again. It's just like, I don't know, something I enjoy doing. So buying patterns is kind of a... it's a staple for me. I love buying patterns. So anyway, the first one I want to talk to you today is about Scarlett House. And this is the black dog sampler. Speaking of the black dog, I adopted Izzy last year, the black dog that's bugging me right now. And Izzy was she was my first foster dog, and I ended up adopting her and keeping her. She is an Aussie Doodle, and when I saw this and was trying to think of a pattern to do as a stitch along on my blog, I thought, well, I'm going to stitch this to kind of commemorate the year after, I guess, I got Izzy. So I've been stitching along and having a good time stitching it, and it's kind of fun because it's I don't stitch on silks often. My budget doesn't allow for a lot of silk, so I just don't stitch on silk often. But this one I happen to be stitching on silk. It's kind of nice. It only has a few silks. I think there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 silks. So it makes it a little bit more affordable. So anyway, Izzy, you're going to have to get down. Okay, so hop down, Izzy. I know we're talking about your sampler because you're the black dog. So this is how far I am. And I'm stitching on Needle and Flax. I believe it's Dirty Teacup. And it's 40 count, finished, and it's a conversion from the Stitchery Nook because they were unable to get Gloriana silks when I asked if they would kit things together for Stitch Along. They just said that that's a company that's harder to get them from. So they changed it out and gave us a conversion for NPI instead. So that's that. And this is my progress. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been kind of looking at charts differently. I used to be just a monogamous stitcher, just stitching on one project at a time only. And then I kind of changed that and I stitch on more projects at a time. And one of the ways I do that is I look at a chart. Like I saw this and I wanted to do a stitch along on my blog for my blog readers because a lot of people are just getting started back into cross stitch again. And so when I was doing that, I kind of thought, oh, well, let's break it up into quadrants like this, and let's stitch one quadrant each quarter of the year. And that was a good idea. And then I looked at it again, and then I counted up the motifs and the letters in the inside of the chart, and then I counted each side of the border as one, and I came up with about 52 motifs. So I decided if you stitch one motif or letter or side of the border every week, you'd have the project done in a year. And so that's what I've been kind of telling myself. Right now I'm way ahead because it's only February and you can see I have a lot of letters done and a few motifs done. And that's okay because I really would like to finish it like mid-November so I have time to frame it and so it's completely finished by the time the end of the year rolls around. So I'm stitching this and a lot of my blog readers are stitching along with. There's still plenty of time to join us because it really doesn't take long to stitch a letter or a motif, and that's about all I do each week is stitch like one or two each week. And so I'm going to keep plugging away at that. And it's been really fun and a really easy stitch because I'm not doing it very often. So, and a lot of times I usually try to make sure that I sit down to start stitching about 9 at night, and I usually go to bed about 10:30. So I usually get like an hour and a half to stitch. And sometimes things happen that I don't get much time at all to stitch. And on those days, like if it's 10 o'clock by the time I sit down, that's the project I pick up because I can easily stitch a letter or two in a half an hour. So next project, this one I worked on last night, so I don't have it ironed. I am working on Heartstring Samplery. This is the Apostles' Creed. This is an older chart. When I got back into cross stitch, everything was new to me. So I didn't look and say, oh, that's an old chart, I'm not interested in something like that. I just grabbed it and started stitching because I was happy to stitch whatever I liked, and I didn't have much experience. So I bought this thinking that I was going to stitch it right away. And then at the time I wasn't stitching on 40 count, and I looked at it. Remember how I said I like to take charts to bed with me? Well, I was looking at the chart and I was reading along and I'm like, holy mackerel, this is going to be huge. It's 131 by 425. If I stitch this on 28 count, because that's probably what I was stitching on at the time, this is going to be really huge. I don't want a chart that's that huge. And then I looked, they were called for 36 count. And I thought, well, I can't stitch on 36 count. So I just set the pattern aside. And luckily I grew up and I got a little braver and I got a little bit more experience under my belt, and I got to the point I wasn't afraid of stitching on 40 count anymore. And so this is the one I stitched on last night. If I would have done a Flosstube yesterday, I would have had all these ironed because the rest of these are pretty much ironed, but this one just happens to, it's going to have a hoop mark in it because I stitched on it last night. So here is what I'm doing. And I believe this one is also on Needle and Flax, and I believe it's also Dirty Teacup. Are both of them Dirty Teacup? Oh, they might be. I don't remember for sure. I'm pretty positive this one's Dirty Teacup by Needle and Flax, and it's 40 count because I can stitch on 40 count now, and I primarily stitch on 40 count with one thread over 2 linen threads. And so I told you before that I was trying to, when I'm cross stitching, I was trying to figure out easier ways to get me motivated to be able to finish projects. So when I looked at this one, I counted it out. I started this on my birthday, which is December 14th. And I told myself if I stitch 1 row a week, that wouldn't be bad, because that's really just like 1 night of stitching, or even oftentimes just a half a night of stitching. So I usually try to do that, and most weeks I've gotten like 2 rows done rather than just 1 row. And so this is how far I am. Maybe if I hold it back a little bit, you can see it. Some people don't like this chart because if you're saying the Apostles' Creed, so was conceived by the H is over here, and then you have to go over here to see the rest of the word holy. And so some people don't like that. And some people don't like it because there are different versions of the Apostles' Creed, depending on if you're Lutheran or Catholic or what your religious affiliation is. This one matched me pretty well, so I'm happy to be stitching it, but other people it doesn't, and so they prefer not to stitch it. Right now what I'm trying to do, I got onto the 3rd page. Well, the bottom of the 3rd page is this row right here with the motifs in it. So I'm trying to like go down the side here a little bit and get down to these motifs and maybe stitch. Maybe I'll do for the next couple weeks, I'll stitch 1 line of words and 1 motif, just to try to get me along a little bit quicker. I do need to go back and fill in a crown right here yet. I should probably do that before I go down and stitch the other motifs, but the other motifs look so fun. You know how it goes. You just want to stitch the fun stuff. So in the meantime, I'm working on a row a week, and hopefully some weeks there's 2 rows a week, or dare I say 3. So that's gonna get done. I know it's gonna get done because I'm at a good pace. If I sat down and just decided to stitch it, I'd probably have it done in a week or so, because it's easy to stitch letters. And being I've stitched so far along with this many letters that I've done, it gets easier and easier, because I basically say, oh, an E, that means I got to do this, 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 and this, and that's the E. I already kind of like have that pattern memorized. So the next project I worked on is, I just picked this one up again because I'm bound and determined I'm going to finish this. And this is Come to the Garden by Teresa Kogut. If you have been following along with me on Flosstube or on my blog, you know that I had my daughter do the wording for me. The original wording says, "Come to the garden, thy senses will be overjoyed." I wasn't super fond of that saying, and instead, at my dad's funeral, at my mom's funeral, and at my niece's funeral, they played the song In the Garden. And the line from that says, "I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses." And it is just one of my favorite church hymns. And it was so appropriate for this chart, just because it's a garden and it's a flower garden, and then they have like the angel up here. And so I just thought it was so appropriate for this piece. So I was so happy that my daughter recharted the words for me, like way happy. And so this is how far I am. I have just been plagued with bad juju on this piece. I don't know. Every time I stitch something, you know, like I had this stitched and I had a branch of the flowers in the wrong place. So and it was quite a bit, and I had to rip it out. I stitched the border basically twice, because down over here, I admit I wasn't looking at the chart, but I will also say that the design's kind of different, because it's not congruent all the way around, and I guess I feel like a modern design that's not a reproduction should just probably be congruent around the outside, you know. So like if you go, you know, up 20 here, you should go up 20 here. I don't know. That's just my feeling and my personal preference. I mean, I understand if you're doing an antique sampler reproduction that doesn't happen, but I was just a little bit frustrated. It just seems like every time I sit down to stitch on this, something's wrong and I have to move it. And it's just this piece. I just don't know why, but that's the way it is. So that's how I've been rolling. So anyway, a couple weeks ago, I decided every week I have to do something on this. It doesn't matter what I do, I just have to do something. So like one week I just did this much of this flower. And the next week I just did this little doodad. And this week I did this bird. I started this motif, and there's 2 bees, one here and one over here, and I started the bees. And that's what I'm gonna do just to try to get this finished. I feel like as I get more and more little segments done, it's gonna build my momentum so that I finally get to the point that I'm gonna go, I'm finishing this. And that's what I need to do. But being I've had all of the setbacks here and there, and every time I go to stitch, something just doesn't work. I've just been very, I don't know, fickle about this piece, but it's pretty, isn't it? I'm so glad I have the border done. I think it's just gorgeous. I really, really want to finish it. I'm going to personalize it with my mom's initials, my dad's initials, and my niece's initials. And just for the record, if you're around for my funeral, I want this song sang on my funeral. So that's that. So I'll pack that one up. I started this last year in June-ish, I think. And I worked pretty good to start with, and then I had a setback, and then I left it alone. Then I picked it up again, and then I left it alone again. And so now I'm not necessarily picking it up as a focus project, but I'm picking it up to make sure I do something on it each week. Another start I had is, oops, this is one I didn't, oh, I just zipped the open one shut. Okay. Next I'm stitching Spring Messenger by Scattered Seed Samplers. Samplers, yeah. There. Hopefully there it's not too much glare. And I like this. I don't have very many spring things at all that are stitched. Usually on my dining room table where I'm filming at right now, I have a old box, and in the box I kind of make it be a centerpiece, and I keep it according to the holiday. So right now it's still decked out with Valentine's Day stuff, but I want to change it to spring stuff, but I really don't have anything for spring. I don't have anything that's any off season. I have stuff that's fall, I have stuff that's Christmas, I have stuff that's Valentine's Day, and I don't have much else. I haven't been stitching that long though, so that's okay. I'll gradually get more things, but for now I don't have them. So I want to focus on trying to get a few things. And so this can be out through spring, and I don't even care if this is out still in May. I mean, to me it's still spring, so it can be out for a good chunk of time. I'd rather stitch some stuff like this rather than necessarily rabbity springy. I do like some rabbit things, but yeah. I'm doing this as a stitch along on my blog, and a lot of people have been stitching along, and that's fun to have that. I did a video, if you didn't see it, on how I started this project and my thought processes through it, and I showed how I do the sewing stitch. I think I'll do another video like that again when I start another stitch along, because it was well received, and I think I know a little bit more so that I can show a little bit more. I guess that's kind of the way it goes. When you know more, you show more, or when you know more, you can tell more. And so I'm still in the learning stages. So yeah, I'm not a pro at videos, and so as I get better at learning film angles and having better equipment, I can do a little better. And once I practice with that equipment, then I can do even a little bit better. So that's what my hope is that the next time I do a stitch along, I can do a video and do it a little better. But this is how far I am for now. I started out in the video just showing how to start to do the black area of the bird's body, because that was like a center start, and I decided to do a center start on this. I usually start my projects upper left. Is just me. And so this project I decided to start in the middle, because there really isn't, being it's oval, there really isn't a good starting spot. So the center with the robin was a good spot, I thought. And then rather than finish the robin, this is what I do. I want to see how the other colors in the chart are going to blend together. And so I decided that, oh, well, I'll stitch a little bit of that, and I'll stitch a little bit of this, and I'll stitch a little bit of that, so I can see how the colors are going to blend in the project. And so I'm really liking them. And it is only, well, It's good old DMC. And so I love when there's a project that has DMC that looks awesome, because sometimes I think DMC gets a bad rap. And I think you all agree. But anyway, right now I am not stitching that outer line, because I decided if I stitch the outer line that makes it harder to finish, because then the line of that outer line has to be lined up perfectly for it to look right. So I just want to avoid that. One of the things I did do when I was thrifting is I found this frame, and it's actually tin. It's not wood, but it looks kind of like wood. But I'm going to try to put some scratch fixer upper stuff on it anyway, because it does have some dings. It's not bad, but I think this was like 4.5 by 6.5, and this finished on 40 count was going to be about 4 by 6. And I like my things framed tightly with not a lot of margin, and so it should work well. But I didn't even know for sure. I debated for a long time. I sat there, do I buy the frame? Do I not buy the frame? Do I buy the frame? Do I not buy the frame? Because I don't know. I also watched Antique Needleworkers when Shelly did the tour of her mill. And when she did that, she had this sitting as a big pincushion on her stand in her stitching spot area. And so I thought, gosh, maybe I should just do it as a giant pincushion, and maybe I should do that. So I don't know for sure what I'm going to do. I think after I have it stitched, I'll hold it up and put it in the frame and see if I like it. Great idea, huh? So I think sometimes when I don't think of those things right away, I think, oh, duh. But anyway, I'm very, very happy that I have that far, and I'll continue to be stitching on that. And I'm actually going to just put this frame right inside my bag, so that when it comes time, I will have it where I need it, and I'll be able to check it, see if that's what how I'm gonna finish it. So I've got a stack over here of projects. I got a couple left over here too. I've been doing a lot of stitching lately, and I've been doing a lot of non-monogamous stitching. When I saw that Olivia of Pumpkin Hollow Quilts was starting to stitch these, I thought, I am jumping on that bandwagon. And so that's exactly what I did. And in fact, I decided to myself, you are going to try to catch up to Olivia and get as far as she is. And so that's what I've been doing, because I'm a person that will look at this and go, oh, if I do that, I've got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different projects. That's a lot. And I just knew I'd kind of peter out. Well, Olivia said that she plans on stitching all of them. I think that's what I remember she said. And so I thought, well, if she's stitching all of them and I try to keep up with her, then I will keep up and I will be able to do them. So I'm like, yes, Jo, go, Jo, go. And so the first week I did this one. Well, it turns out that wasn't very good, because she was stitching this one. So I quickly stitched that one. And then I was going to stitch this one right here in the back. But then when I sat down to stitch, I was almost out of the ecru that you need for the white. So I thought, I'm going to start a different one. So I sat down and I started this one. It's not ecru, it's eggshell. So then I started this one because I could do some of the other stitching here to finish out my night without having to get up. Because when I stitch in the living room in there, and I watch Flosstube, and I sit on the love seat, and I typically have one dog between my legs, and I have 2 dogs on the love seat by me. So if I get up to go get something, that means all 3 of the dogs get up to get something, because everybody has to be with me and everybody has to follow me. Then I have to find whatever it is I'm going to find. Then I have to sit down back in the love seat, get my feet back up, get settled. Then the dogs have to wrestle around and figure out who's going to be the dog that gets to sit between my feet. And then the other dogs have to wrestle around on the side to see who's in what position sitting by me on the side. So for me to get up in the middle of cross stitching, and it's a whole production. It, like, no joke, could take easily 10 minutes. Well, I don't want to give up 10 minutes of my time, so I just started stitching something else rather than waiting to have that color eggshell. So I quickly finished this one last week, this one, and then I started this one, and then I finished that one last week too. I'm just so excited because they're actually like really fast stitches, and I just had no idea that they would stitch up that fast, and I'm just thrilled that they are, because remember, I felt so intimidated that there was 6 of them. So I already have 3 done, and I have the 4th one started, and it is right here. And this is the one that Olivia just finished. So now I'm super motivated to hurry up and get it finished so that I can keep up with her, because I want to keep up with her, because, you know, that's my motivation right now. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you very much, because you are just the motivation that I needed to keep this project going. I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited about finishing them. I can't wait to be able to go dig in my button box and find the buttons to do this one right here. And I think I even got like a bowl that I'm going to display them in, and I'm just super excited about this. And remember how I said I want something that's off season? So I've got another spot that I typically decorate, like under my TV, I have like a set of cubbies, and then above the cubbies, I have a huge dough bowl that goes on there. And so that's another spot that I decorate. And so I think on these off season times, I'm going to probably put these from Keeper of the Pins. I'm going to probably put those in there, and a couple other sewing related or crafty related pieces that I have. I'm super excited about that because I'm going to have something to put in there. Yay! And I'm pretty good about finishing things right away. Not perfect, but not too bad. And so I'm excited about that because I don't think I'll let them sit for a long time. I did start, it's just a small start, on Pet All the Dogs. Being that I am a dog foster mom, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it. Being I foster dogs, I obviously love dogs. I pretty much have a foster here most of the time that I can. If there's one available, I always say yes. Right now I have the little puppy that I showed you earlier, and I have an old 15-year-old dog that has a home, and we're just waiting to get connected up with the home, and then she'll be going to her new home. I'm super excited about that. But of course I had to stitch this Pet All the Dogs. This is by Teresa Kogut. I have it started, and just a very little start. You can't see. Up above here, I'm gonna lift this up. You can see that piece right there is Heaven and Nature by Teresa Kogut. I have thyroid cancer, and it's ongoing. And so with my thyroid cancer, I always take a project to the doctor with me. And for the longest time, that was my project. There's a gigantic house in the middle of it. And when I went to the doctor, I would take that with me, and I'd stitch it at the doctor's office. And in between tests, I'd go up to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and I would stitch while I was sitting in the waiting room in between appointments, because oftentimes when I go up there, I might have 3 appointments in a day, and one might be at 8 in the morning, and the last one might be 3 in the afternoon. So I've got a lot of time in between stitch. So a lot of my stitching on that was done at appointments in between things. And so I needed a new project to take, and this house again is going to be giant, so I'm just kind of working my way down along the bottom, because this is very repetitive too, something easy to take with in the car. Sorry, my needle's there, but nah, it's okay that it's there. You'll forgive me. So I started this. I'm not like actively working on it right now. I plan to finish the Come to the Garden piece, and I'll stitch on this when I go to appointments and things like that, but I'm not super actively stitching on it. I will though after I finish the Come to the Garden piece, because this came out in 2020, and I have wanted to stitch it ever since then. I'm totally in love with all of the patterns that Teresa Kogut put out in 2020. I have the Heaven and Nature over here. I have Newcastle Bouquet up there. I'm working on Come to the Garden. That one wasn't in 2020. That one came out later, but I also want to do is it Faith, Hope, Love, Peace, or Peace, Faith, Hope, Love? I don't know what order they go in, but eventually I want to stitch that one too. So I just really love the Teresa Kogut projects. So the big samplers really make me happy. So believe it or not, I do have 2 bags that are not the cheapo Walmart bags. I have this bag. This is from Deborah Harry. She takes rescued stitchings. She saves the stitches and she takes them and she makes them into bags. You can find her on Facebook. What she does is she collects and makes bags for like 2 weeks, and then she has a big sale on Sunday night, and then you have to be fast fingers in order to get a bag. And she's just awesome and makes very, very high quality bags that I totally love. And so this is the smaller size bag, and this is her bigger size bag. It was this size. So I think she calls these medium, and I think she calls these large. I prefer the flat bottom bags like this one. The medium bags are okay for a project that is in a chart like this. I like the larger bags if it's a full size chart like this. So check her, Deborah Harry, just like the singer from Blondie, on Facebook. And then if you join her Facebook group, then you'll get a message and she'll tell you when her sales are going to be. So my next project is from here. I had showed you that I did this one already. And this is the winter version. It is kind of hard to show pillows. Sherry, the Colorado cross stitcher, says that she just doesn't quite know how to show a pillow, and I guess I don't either. So I've stitched that. This is the winter version that I did, and this is the fall version. I also stitched that. And so now I'm coming over, remember my want to have more spring things. So this one is what I'm working on now. I only stitched on it one night. It's kind of one of those things, sooner started is sooner finished. So I did want to start it, even if I don't, not going to finish it tomorrow. I'm only this far. So far, I really enjoy it. I love tulips. I'm a girl that really loves tulips. I live in Iowa. When I met my husband and we were first married, I lived in Minnesota. And we lived in the ricketiest old house ever. And you'll have to continue following me if you want to hear all the stories about living in that old house, because I'll probably tell you some. Well, anyway, the house was so badly and so poorly insulated, and it was just, well, I'll be honest. My husband shot a skunk out of the basement of that house. But in the wintertime, it was cold. And so my husband took straw bales, like a farmer has straw bales, and he put straw bales around the foundation of the house. That was something people did a lot when I was a kid growing up. And then people figured out that it looks kind of bad. And that, there was other forms to insulate your house. So anyway, we had those straw bales around the house, and it was like the end of March, and my husband hadn't taken them off yet. He was kind of waiting for April, because we do still get snow in April and in Iowa and in Minnesota. So he still had them there. And we had a tulip bulb grow up through the ground all the way through the straw bale. And then on top of the straw bale, there was a tulip blossom. It was so cute. I still have a picture of it. I don't know where it is. Otherwise I'd have brought it with and showed it to you. But that's one of the reasons why I love tulips. I just feel like they're, I think I can kind of flower, and they do. So that's the kind of attitude I like to have. So it's really nice to have a project or a flower that thinks the same as me. So I think put one over here. I got to make sure. Yep, I already showed you that one. Okay, the last thing I have to show you is a finish. Yahoo! Who doesn't love a finish? And so the project I finished was We Live in Hope, and that is from Blackbird Designs. I am a Blackbird Designs fan. For some reason, this one, it really wasn't my favorite. I didn't have a connection to it like some of the other ones I do. I mean, I liked it, but I just wasn't in love with it. But then I saw the colors in the photo are kind of dull. I don't know. It didn't quite catch me. And so then I got the newsletter from Attic Needleworks last year at some point, and someone stitched it, and they personalized it, and they put Barb Adams is, the designer from Blackbird Design who passed away. They put it as a tribute to her, and they personalized it. And then I looked at it because I thought, is that We Live in Hope project? And because it really didn't look the same. The picture in the Attic Needle newsletter, it looked like bright and like a nice sampler that, you know, caught my eye, and I actually liked it. So I thought, oh, they must have changed the colors out. Well, then I kept reading the newsletter, and no, they didn't change the colors out. They stitched it in the colors. And so I figured out that it was just one of those charts we all kind of roll our eyes about, that the color on the pattern is not the same color as the floss. And in this case, it was a really good thing because the floss is beautiful. And here it is finished. And I decided to personalize mine. And so I have grandparents that came to the US from Sweden in the early 1900s. And so I personalized it, and where they had originally designed it to say Chesapeake Bay, I put right here, I put coming to America. And then I put over here, I put my grandma's information. Her name's Elsa Helena Olsen. And she came on the SS Ivernia ship, and she came into Boston Harbor in 1908. And my grandpa is Anders Iver Johnson. If you've watched me or heard me or seen me on my blog, you know that I have a grandson named Anders, and this is where they got the name, is from my grandfather, Anders Iver Johnson. And he came on the SS St. Louis, and he came in 1902. And so his information is over here. Well, no, his information's over here. I'm pointing the wrong direction because the camera shows me the wrong view. And so here I put a little heart because they got married, and I put an M, and I put 1911 because that's when they got married. So I left off quite a few of the doodads on the chart. Because of that, like this didn't get stitched, and a few of these other things along here didn't get stitched because that's where I put the personalization. So I ended up stealing some of the motifs from down here, and I moved them up into the chart in different spots. So you can kind of see what I did. And then I put the date, I stitched it down here at the bottom in the middle. And I also put my initials over here, JK. So I'm very, very pleased with it. I just got a piece of conservation glass for it, and I'll be framing that myself. I already got a frame cut down for it. I'm super excited about it. I do cut down my own frames, but I do buy conservation glass, especially for something like this that is a family piece that I want to keep. Some people make the comment that their kids won't keep what they stitch and it'll all be in Goodwill. And I know that a lot of the things that I stitch, my kids will keep. I have 5 kids. I have 10 grandkids as of right now. And I know that a lot of my stuff will get kept. I've told them, don't keep any seasonal things. Don't do, unless you like it. But something like this, I wish they probably would keep, and they totally would. And they'll probably hang it up in their house, and they won't keep it in a box. My kids are very good about appreciating the work that I put into my crafting and quilting, and I very much appreciate that about my kids. I appreciate that a lot about my kids. So I don't think I have anything else to share with you. I've managed to kill quite a bit of time here filming this video, and my house isn't clean, and I haven't baked anything yet, and they're going to be arriving in about an hour and a half, so I better get going. I'm a grandma that always has to have it's Ritz crackers, and you put peanut butter between 2 Ritz crackers, and then you dip them into chocolate almond bark that's been melted. That's their favorite, and it's a good grandma thing, and I guess Izzy needs some attention too, so I better get going. Thanks for joining me. For my plans, I'm just gonna continue doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna really make sure I get those Keeper of the Pins done. My goal is to finish them in February, and I wanna keep going on my other projects because I'm in a big push to stitch a lot, so I don't feel quite so guilty when market comes around and I buy a couple things, because I'm going to. I think we all will. But anyway, thanks for joining me here today. And as always, if you give me a like or a thumbs up, that's awesome. If you leave a comment, that's even more awesome. And if you join me next time, that's the most awesome. So I'll catch you later. Have a good night. Bye.